My vegan journey in 12 steps. 1. I'm omnivore. 2. I watch Forks Over Knives documentary. 3. I find out that animal products are probably killing me. 4. I learn animal products are probably killing my parents and my husband. 5. I notice animal products are making me old before my time. 6. I fully realize how animals are being tortured in industrial farming. 7. Discover how industrial animal agriculture is a significant cause of greenhouse gases, deforestation, soil erosion, depletion, antibiotic resistance, and water waste. 8. I revisit that part about animal products making me look old before my time. 9. I spend about 4 years struggling on and off to commit to a vegan diet. 10. I'm vegan. 11. I realize it wasn't actually that hard. 12. I'm coming for you. Hello, Vedge Heads. You're listening to Veg Your Best, the plant-based podcast. My name's Michele Olander. I'm a certified life coach, a practicing vegan, and I'm here every week to try and convince you to show up, to eat more plants, and not wait a single second longer to set an impossible goal, whatever that is for you. Episode 14, Your Vegan Journey, The Call to Adventure. So hi, Veg Heads. You may know and you may have heard in the past that I sometimes get a little, gaggy about using the term vegan journey. I don't know why, really. It just sounds a bit self-important, maybe. And so whenever I notice I've got a strong negative reaction to something, I have this bad habit of thinking I need to spend a bunch of time investigating it. So the vegan journey, it sounds a lot to me like, the hero's journey, obviously. And so I've been kind of playing around with that story arc. Many of you have heard that term, right? The hero's journey. The term was developed by Joseph Campbell in the middle of the last century. And essentially it refers to the traditional narrative story structure in Western literature. And it's also commonly illustrated by, fairy tales and Mother Goose and stories and movies like The Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, Hunger Games, Rocky, any of your favorite Pixar movies, or one of my favorites, The Wizard of Oz. In the hero's journey, a character is propelled from the ordinary world into an extraordinary world in a series of events, adventures, misadventures that force her into unlikely alliances and ultimately change her understanding. And she returns finally to her beginning with a new perspective and power. And my vegan journey is more slapstick Groundhog Day than it is Rocky. But I wonder if by looking at this classic template of a hero's journey, you might see where you are on your vegan journey. Because, unless you are born and raised in a vegan home, you probably started out in the ordinary world of the standard American or the standard Western diet that I did, which was essentially meat, dairy, eggs, or fish at every meal or snack. And maybe you are still there. But if you found yourself to this podcast, maybe there is something that you're waiting for. Some piece of information. Some little moment of inspiration. Some glimmer of feasibility that will encourage you to set off on your vegan journey. And that's the stage of the journey they call the call, or the call to adventure. Because in the classic hero's journey, the hero is usually not particularly inclined to set off on the adventure, at least not when they first receive the call. Your call to your vegan journey could be many things. A doctor's visit, a diagnosis, or a prescription. Maybe the health problems of a parent or spouse, which are caused by or aggravated by an overconsumption of animal products. Your call could be kind of like mine, one of the many vegan and whole food, plant-based documentaries like Forks Over Knives, Earthlings, Dominion, What the Health, Game Changers. There are loads. My call came in part as an effort to support my child who was eating vegan. And I was resistant to her choice, really resistant, but I also wanted to help her learn how to choose nutritious foods, how to order effectively in restaurants or while traveling. And I also thought that the restaurants we typically frequented should be able to offer her something vegan. So I proactively ordered lots of vegan meals long before I ever gave up eating meat. I refused the call to adventure, the call to veganism or plant-based eating for quite a while. And maybe that's where you are. Or maybe you're at the stage of the journey where you receive specialized knowledge and instruction or assistance you didn't know existed from a mentor. I know people always laugh about this, but my magical mentors were primarily a bunch of white middle-aged men, podcasters, Howard Jacobson, Sid Garza-Hillman, and Rich Roll. Granted, they were and still are younger than I. But through them, I was turned on to a lot of evidence-based, scientific reasons to think that not only was a carefully planned, whole food, plant-based vegan diet optimal for human health, that was just one part of a responsible and compassionate way of living on this planet with my fellow citizens. But at around the same time that I was learning and being mentored by my magical mentors, Howard, Sid, and Rich Roll, my father died suddenly, and my trim and very physically fit husband was being advised that his cholesterol and blood pressure were continuing to be high enough that long-term medication was indicated. And through those magical podcasting mentors, I had been reading and listening to a litany of plant-based MDs, researchers, dietitians, and so I asked my husband to eat vegan every meal and snack except for his dinner for 6 weeks, just to see if it made any difference to his blood levels of cholesterol and his blood pressure. That's when I committed to a fully vegan diet, and then that was that. My husband's blood pressure and cholesterol came down precipitously, so completely, in 6 weeks that even now, 5 years later, he still has not been prescribed any medications, and he still eats what he wants at dinner, usually fish. Would I like him to give up fish? Well, I respect the sovereignty of human beings to choose their own way. But yes, I would. But so far, so good. And I respect your sovereignty to choose your own way. And if you've listened this far, I'm going to ask you why. What could I tell you about moving towards a whole food, plant-based, vegan diet that would move you another step along your hero's journey? You know, according to the Center for Nutrition Studies at Cornell University, in the top 10 causes of death, diet including the amount of animal products versus whole plant-based foods, diet is implicated in coronary disease, cancer, chronic lower pulmonary disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and kidney disease. A diet heavy in animal products is associated with many of the most debilitating chronic cases of issues like gastrointestinal disease, inflammatory conditions, autoimmune conditions, mood dysregulation, and premature aging. And if you're curious, or even if you're skeptical, you could just try it. It just takes beans, greens, fruits, veggies, grains, legumes, and seeds. My husband tried for 6 weeks, and he's never looked back. I've been eating whole food, plant-based vegan for over 5 years, and I didn't really have any particular health issues, but I promise you that aside from my family, my vegan journey has been the thing I'm most proud of. Plus, I now know that if, as the years go by, I receive a medical diagnosis or scare, that I have done everything I know to support my health for the people who love me and who count on me. I wasn't able to make my parents take their diets more seriously. I can't make some of my dearest friends and family move their diets towards plant-based. I can't make you. Can I? Well, in the meantime, I'm going to continue to show up here and online weekly, sometimes daily on Facebook, and remind you that it's possible. I am going to call you to this plant-based adventure. You eat 2, 3, maybe 4 or more times per day. Can you see how big a difference that could make in your life if you were fueling yourself with a rainbow of plants filled with micronutrients, phytochemicals, and fiber? If it were available in a pill, you would pay anything for it. And it's actually fun, and it's actually delicious. I love what I eat. I love it. And it's actually fascinating. It's actually a way to live where you become profoundly connected with one of the most fundamental parts of human society: food production, food distribution, food preparation, consumption, and waste. So let me go, all Obi-Wan Kenobi on you. Let me be your Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, your Gandalf. Let me call you to your power and your heroic vegan plant-based adventure. Is there someone you love right now that's eating in a way that concerns you? Well, I would love to tell you exactly how to manipulate and control that person, because it's obviously for his or her own good, right? But it doesn't really work. And it usually backfires. And it usually even dilutes or muddies the message. The most powerful argument for vegan or plant-based eating is living a strong, happy, energetic, powerfully committed plant-based life. In other words, you go first. And you don't have to go it alone. My coaching practice is dedicated to people who want to answer that call to a vegan adventure, a heroic plant-based journey. And I am constantly assembling resources and producing content to help you, to help anyone make the process of limiting or eliminating animal products as easy and enjoyable as possible. This is my mission for this third act of my life. I believe that if my mom and dad had eaten plant-based earlier, that they would still be here. I believe that if my in-laws had limited animal products, that they would still be here. I believe that there is almost nothing you can do that so directly impacts your health, your energy, your spirit, the environment of your world and of your family as eating a richly diverse plant-based diet. If it were a car with all those powers, you'd want it. And if it were a lotion with all those benefits, you'd buy it. If it were a medical procedure with all those indications, you would undergo it. But all it takes is a plan and a trip to the supermarket, or maybe an Instacart order. Listen, I know there are food deserts in this country, and that is no small issue. And I know vegan entrepreneurs and producers are bit by bit helping to address these inequalities of access. And in the long run, that is the mission of Vedge Your Best. If you have the ability to request and demand plant-based options at your market, at your local restaurant or fast food place, you are actually voting for increased availability of plant-based options for everyone, and for a normalization of nutritious whole foods that our human bodies actually require. At Vedge Your Best, my mission this year is to coach and assist people who are ready to see for themselves how plant-based can transform their lives. By early 2022, I hope, my mission is to widen this coaching practice to include a variety of plant-based resources and professionals. And by 2023, well, that's when I think the big Vedge Your Best adventure journey will be unveiled. If you're ready to answer this call to adventure, this call to Vedge Your Best, email me. We can set up a time to talk about your exact goal, your exact situation, your exact set of dreams and obstacles. It's mid-December 2020, and there is no time like the present to get off the starting line. And by January 1st, you could be well on your way to this magnificent new adventure. Are you following along on our Facebook channel this month as we Vedge Your Best through the holidays? It's unscripted, impromptu, and, well, poorly lit. It's my vegan challenge to go in front of the camera more often. You should see it for yourselves. Let me show you, like Glinda, the Witch of the North, how you've had the power all along, my dear, and it was in the produce aisle. Vedge Your Best, podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Vedge Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So until next week, make it easy and just Vedge Your Best.